This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Awakenings is super excited to add this new feature to each show as we welcome Dr. Glenn Swartwout, known as the Wizard of Wellness, to answer any and all health-related questions and his suggestion on how to heal it in a natural and healthy manner. Now, one big issue many people experience is something called sinusitis, which is basically a chronic inflammation and infection of the sinuses. Now, how would you treat this issue, Dr. Glenn?
First, I have to be careful because we don't say treat unless we have a license and we're working directly with a person in person, in that state that's licensing that interaction. But you can treat yourself. And if it were me, the first thing I would think of is a nasal spray, a sinus terrain nasal spray that I developed. It's basically a hypertonic saline. It has some other ingredients that are known to help with sinusitis. But the base of it is hypertonic saline, which even by itself has been shown, for example, when we were dealing with COVID, they found that it made the sinus less susceptible to the virus, and it would do so to other viruses as well. And again, all the ingredients are natural. I think grapefruit seed extract is one of the natural antibiotics that's in there, very broad spectrum, and non-toxic. The wonderful thing about using natural therapies is there's almost nobody who ever dies from them, and maybe choking on a pill once every 10 years, or there's a couple of herbs that the FDA has recognized, so they can be dangerous. Yeah, certain herbs, there's toxic herbs, and there's toxic herbs that are used in very low dose, like in Oriental medicine, like aconite, monkshood. We use that in some of our formulas, but I let people know it's at a very, very small dose. So it's a non-toxic dose, and it's also prepared in special ways to prevent any health problems. And that's not one of the ones that's come on the radar of FDA as a problem because of that. But so stimulants, usually things that people use for really fast weight loss that just aren't healthy for you. But the sinus terrain nasal spray is very, very safe. It makes a mist, fine mist. You spray it in each nostril as you inhale through the nose, and this fine mist spreads throughout the sinuses. And both the herbal and nutritional ingredients, as well as the strong saline, hypertonic saline it's called, are extremely beneficial for cleansing the sinus, and also the other ingredients helping with whether it's viral or bacterial infection. It's preventive. Now, the underlying, one of the other things that I would recommend that we've talked about on other episodes is the microbiome, because we have a microbiome in the gut, but we also have it on our skin, we have it in our sinuses, in our dental area, in our throat, in our lungs. And so what I usually recommend to my clients is take our microbiome capsule, open it, take just a little bit of powder by mouth. That's going to help the teeth, the gums, the mouth, the throat, the sinuses, the lungs, the trachea. So for any kind of upper respiratory issues, open your microbiome and close it again, swallow that. It's in an enteric capsule, so it'll go through the stomach without the stomach acid destroying the microbiome, and then open up in the alkaline environment of the small intestine. And it's important to note that most enteric capsules and most drugs have an enteric coating. Most of them use phthalates, PHTH. Phthalate is a plasticizer. It's in plastics. It leaches out into our drinking water bottles. It's one of the things that destroys the immune system. So avoid plastic bottles with liquids especially, but any plastic bottles, you're better off with glass bottles. They're safer. That's why we use special deep violet, almost black glass bottles made in Belgium. It's like a stained glass window violet, deep violet. And that allows in only the frequencies of light that keep it energized and safe and clean, prevent bacteria and fungi from growing, and prevent the light. Most of the visible light will break down, will oxidize the nutrients in a remedy.
If you have that issue, take a listen to what Dr. Glenn said. So we hope you enjoy this feature on natural and healthy treatments and healing with the Wizard of Wellness, Dr. Glenn Swartwout. Now, if you have a health issue you would like to ask Dr. Glenn, email them to me at kwgruber@yahoo.com. kwgruber@yahoo.com, and we will feature your question on an upcoming show. Also, if you would like to purchase any of Dr. Glenn's natural remedies, go to his website, remedymatch.com, and put in this code for 10% off, AWAKE, all capital letters, AWAKE, to receive the World Awakenings discount and also a free wicking toothbrush set. Welcome, 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 my friends, for once again joining us here on World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, a show that since 2018 has been asking the question, why now, more than ever, are the people of the world awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening? In doing so, we have had the beautiful opportunity to speak one-on-one with some of the world's greatest experts and teachers of these topics. Now, also, don't forget that now you can not only watch this show on YouTube, but we are now honored to be on the brand new TV network, New Reality TV. Now, let's head off and meet our guest here on episode 204. Debbi Dachinger is a journalist, a certified shamanic practitioner, and has had UFO experiences. Although Debbi has been spiritual her whole life, she had a later in life awakening that led her on the path to explore the intricate connections between shamanism and extraterrestrial phenomena, which that is very cool. We're going to check that out. And it has changed who she is in her life's trajectory. She is the host of the Dare to Dream podcast, focusing on extraterrestrials, channeling, UFOs, shamanism, and cutting-edge spirituality. And plus, she is a certified wine specialist and a lead singer in the band Lions of Lyra, so we'll have to find out about that too. Debbi facilitates powerful private and group shamanic healing sessions, and she bridges the ancient and the extraordinary, where shamanic practices and extraterrestrial encounters intersect. She has written several international best-selling books. We'll check that out too. With that, I am so grateful and blessed to have you on the show, Debbi. Thank you for being here.
Carl, thank you so much. I'm excited to hang out with you and have a chat.
Well, I've been doing my research on you, and my gosh, you do so many amazing, beautiful things. But I'm really curious, how did a young Debbi find herself being on this incredible path of spirituality, shamanism, healing, and being connected to our galactic beings and friends in different dimensions and universes? Were you interested in this as a youngster?
Not at all. What I was as a youngster, and pretty much since I've been born, is very spiritual, very, very into the healing arts and things like that. But I also had certain separations and judgments, specifically around extraterrestrials and UFOs, that's for sure. And even a little bit around past life regressions. It was for like a trigger for me when I would always feel like, if anyone brought up ETs, I'd be like, ugh, like just really? I was so skeptical, such an open-minded skeptic. And, then God has the last laugh. So even though I was highly spiritual, I would say one big awakening was when I started my radio show. It'll be 18 years ago in June. And I started my radio show and I started to watch who was coming on and the conversations I was having. And I realized, oh, wow, spirituality is my greatest value. It's so important. And so that was a big awakening. And then years later, I started to do some work outside of this country. And every night, it was a 4-night back-to-back experience. And every single night, the divine came to meet me while I was in a very expanded state, let's say. And she would say to me, Debbie, you're a shaman, you're a healer, and you're a priestess. And I had no context for what she was talking about. And so I argued with her. And I said, no, I'm not. Healer, those would be my friends or people who come on my podcast. Priestess, that's lovely. I don't know what that means. And the shaman for sure, because I understood the decades that a shaman, a real shaman, would put into becoming who they were, and that they were chosen by lineage and spirit and the community. And none of that had happened to me. And so she was very gracious. Every night she would come and say the same thing over and over. And as she would come, she would start to show me aspects of myself. And it was very wonderful, albeit confusing. And so when I got back here to this country, I shared with a friend of mine this confusion. And he said, well, why don't we do some regressions for you and see what happens? And I trusted this man. He was exemplary at what he did. And so the first session, he put me under, and I saw myself immediately as a native male, a shaman, and it was a beautiful life. The next time he put me under, I saw myself as a woman, a Mayan leader of her people, living in a temple. And this aspect of me was over 7 feet tall, extremely skinny. And I had what felt like an entire day with her. And before I left, I wanted to ask her questions, how she did the things she did. I'd never seen or been around somebody like her. And I was full of assumptions. And she shook her head and she raised a finger and she telepathically said to me, I am not from here. I am from another galaxy. And he took me back out and I was like, wow, this thing I've judged, extraterrestrials, UFOs, all of this, life outside of Earth, and I have been separated from and been an eye roller to actually exists. And in fact, there are aspects of me who have been this galactically, species-wise. And so this was a huge opening for me. So here now I have this UFO ET thing, like, what do I do with it? And here I have this shamanic information that still isn't settled. And I decided, look, I'm a journalist, I'm an aggregator. Let me go find the information. I'm so grateful I took that path because I started enrolling in shamanic certification programs, and they were long. They were not short. They were not for the faint of heart, but they were really long, 6 months, 1 year, adding 30 extra hours to my already busy life. But I was fully in. And even though I joined for the information, what happened was I started massively changing, healing, and watching that as I used these practices on other people, I was healing them. And then I started receiving downloads that there was a connection between the two. So I would follow it. And I put together a project with 6 very prominent people around this subject. And none of them heard the other person. None of them knew what the other person said in the interview that I did and the footage that I got, but they were all saying the same thing. So I was on to something. And then I started being invited stages around the world to speak about this, to deliver programs about this. And this is where I live today. So it's been many years. And now I do a lot of shamanic healing programs, especially for groups. I rather love that. I just did a new moon ceremony yesterday online for a lot of people. And all of this to say, so it was a great awakening, Carl. It was unexpected. It was not where I was headed, but it came anyway. And I am so grateful today looking back because of the enormity of life shift and even inside of me that has occurred because I followed this path. And I really believe, at least for today, that this is my path. There is something probably very ancient for me here, like many lifetimes that I've been this, and that I know this information. And I also think it's an auspicious time on the planet with impending extraterrestrial visits and a lot of shifts in that world, that this information starts getting out to the public. So that's how I came to do what I do.
Wow, wow. And I had read that you had a later in life awakening. So, I haven't had many guests who've had this flash Kundalini awakening, but yours sound like more of an unfoldment over a period of time.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it, like a very good way, because you could have called the divine a flash, but I was arguing. I was arguing for my limitations, but also like, whoa, what does that mean? And she was very insistent that I get this information. And I think the divine, he, she just trusted that when they delivered it to me, I was going to find my way. It was going to be intriguing enough, compelling, confusing enough that I would somehow find my way on this path. And they were right. And I will say the other piece of it that's kind of interesting is once I just surrendered and went on the path, just like, whoa, let's find out what this is. I would say very shortly thereafter, things started to open up for me and unfold also in ways that were unprecedented. As you said, some of my clients have been guests on your shows, and I know how to pitch people. I do some of that for a living. And I never pitched myself. I was just like, let me find out what this is. And all of a sudden, I'm getting invited to Mexico City for the World Ufology event. All of a sudden, I'm hearing from Gaia TV who wants to interview me. And now I've been on twice. And I have literally been all over the world and on many podcasts that have reached out to me. And I really feel humbled by the whole experience. And I think it's extraordinary. Whatever machination this is, whoever is helping and orchestrating, I am grateful.
Yeah, and I have that question. You're a facilitator and you know how to approach people and talk to them. You're a journalist. Were you, before all this happened, did you have a career in the media?
Yeah, I did. So I've had a few careers in my life. I have been a professional actress and singer, and that went for a very long time. And when that something well into my adulthood kind of kicked back, it was also confusing. I didn't know what to do with that. And I got to a point where I thought, well, this is so unknown to me. I think I will surrender. And thankfully, in a 3-year period of following excitement, I ended up in radio. And when I ended up in radio, I started writing books, and this whole media career took off on its own. And, it's been a real blessing because I work with spiritual messengers. I then became a book coach. And then I have a company that takes books to a guaranteed international bestseller. And I have always small amount of people that I do PR work for, specifically getting them booked on podcasts. And it's been good to me. I wasn't looking for anything else. I was like, this is cool. And I even in my shows, get to hang out with people and get information that is really edifying and interesting. But I think something else was meant for me. And if I were to be honest, it's kind of coming up in answer to your question. Along the way, I had a few channels on my show, and these beings that would come through them would say to me, Debbie, you've been shining a light on people for a long time, but really you're meant to be in the spotlight. And I was very reticent. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of happy here. But they would say that enough people or enough beings would say that to me. And I hadn't thought about this in a long time. It sort of was prophesized, if you will.
Wow. Well, you were meant to be in the spotlight. I mean, you were an actress and a singer for a long time, and you're in the spotlight there. So hopefully you can transmute that to what you do, and you have done that. But, it's interesting, too. We've both been in radio. I definitely took a longer, different path than you, but I love the career, and now we're both in front of the camera. But I want to go back because, so much of you is about the extraterrestrials and UFOs. And you've talked about, have you had some personal encounters with UFOs and any of them super memorable or you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I have had many UFO experiences, and it's been very well timed, I will say, very slow but revealing and kind of fun and mysterious. I think the first time I had a UFO experience, I was out with some friends in Joshua Tree, which is a place that is known for a lot of craft sightings. And we were working to well early in the morning in the pitch black at the foot of the mountains. And we were meditating and doing all the Stephen Greer CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, things to bring in the extraterrestrials. Well, we had a beautiful evening, but nothing happened. So we left in our truck. It was 2 in the morning, and it's a long drive back to Los Angeles. It's about 4 hours from Joshua Tree. And there was a considerable amount of traffic on this Saturday evening at 2 a.m. And the 2 gals in the back were asleep. I purposely forced myself to stay awake so that I made sure the driver stayed awake. And while we were driving, we were on the 10 freeway, and all of a sudden, boom, a craft came right in front of the truck visually. It was huge. It had no propulsion, no movement, lights, and I was hitting the driver and saying, pull over, pull over, pull over, because I wanted to be as close as possible to it. Well, he couldn't pull over because there was so many trucks and cars on the road. So at the time when I'm telling him to pull over, I also, with my voice, had woken up the 2 gals in the back seat. Everybody now is awake. Everybody's freaking out and going, this is awesome, pulling out their phones. And it was a bit of time till we could pull over safely on the side of the road. We took as many videos as we could, as many photographs as we could. And here's the crazy thing, Carl. Not one other car or truck or being saw this spacecraft but us. And that, by the way, is a lot often what happens to people. It somehow is meant for them to see. And so we stood there on the side of the road watching it. It felt sentient. And then at some point, it shifted over onto its side and then glided over toward the 60 freeway. We got back into our truck and decided, well, I guess it's time to drive home. And it tracked us for a while and then was just disappeared. So that was my very first foray. And I've had other, I don't know how many experiences you want to hear, but really extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. It almost seems like because your energy and your willingness to connect with them attracted them, yet it's like they cloak themselves to the people who don't have that energy, and the ones who are there and want to see them, it looks like they reveal themselves to you.
Yeah. I've even had them reveal themselves to me through my cell phone.
Oh,
Because I was still new enough to all of this. We were in another experience, we were out in Arizona and we were in sacred land. We had permission to be there. It was pitch black in the desert. And we were doing contact work. And at some point, we all took a break. And I just thought, well, I have no idea what anything looks like here. So why don't I use my cell phone and I'll just take some pictures? It might be interesting. Cactus, I don't know what's there. Maybe, the moon. I'm creative. And so I was taking pictures without a flash. Of course, that means, especially in the pitch black, you hold your cell phone for what feels like minutes. So enough light comes into the lens to take the photo. And I saw this tree. It was an extraordinary tree. And up above, you could see the stars through the tree. And I thought, oh, that would be a really cool artistic picture. And I kept attempting to take a photo of the stars through the branches over and over. And I thought, my finger is getting in the way of this photo. And I finally took a breath and stopped. And I just changed directions. And I went out the complete other way because there was a fence. And I thought, well, what's beyond this fence? So I took pictures there too. Later on, I was looking through my phone again, and I called over the woman who was in charge and I said, wow, this is unreal. Take a look at this. So what had happened with the tree and the branches, and I never did get a picture of those stars, there was this huge globe, milky, creamy, with pastel colors, blues and purples going through it. Now this is the picture, and off at the bottom on the right is a little orb, you might say an angel orb, yes? And then you can, kind of see there's dirt, you can kind of see the outline of a tree, but then you can't see the rest of the tree because there's this enormous globe. It is not an orb way bigger, way different. And it took years before I was able to ask somebody in the know who knows these things. And I said, what is this? Because I had an assumption about what that was too. And she said that was a species that understood your vibration, much to your point, understood your vibration and was very interested in you. And I thought, well, what a beautiful species that was. And interestingly enough, when I looked at the next picture, the one that I had shot beyond the wooden gate out to what I thought was nothingness, there was a spacecraft in the sky. And so these are the like very gentle ways they came into my life. And now today, honestly, my boyfriend and I will be driving to San Diego from Los Angeles and back. We see spacecraft in the sky. And there's been many other episodes. And I love it. I love that they have some awareness and that in their gentle way, they're making contact. I appreciate it.
Well, it sure sounds like your drives on the highway are not boring. Oh my gosh, wow. And you didn't, let me ask you, when you shot those pictures with your phones, you didn't see those beings or orbs at the time you shot the picture. It wasn't until you saw the photo on your phone.
That's exactly correct. With the naked eye, I couldn't see anything. I wouldn't have even known it was there.
Wow, super interesting. Well, we are talking to the amazing Debbi Dachinger. Oh my gosh, host of the incredible show Dare to Dream. Now, Debbi, you're also very tuned in and aligned with the native indigenous peoples of the world. Now, I saw you just did an interview on Gaia TV with host George Norrie, who also hosts the famous radio show Coast to Coast, where you talk about the Hopi Indians. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, yes. So first, I just want to say, George, I actually got him to come on my show. So about a month ago, if anybody wants to check that out, that was such a great coup for me because I love George. He's a legend. He's opened the pathway for you, me, and so many other people in this field. And I think the world of him. So yes, the beautiful George Norrie. I just went back a second time for a different conversation on Gaia. And I want to say to your listeners, if they would like to watch the interview, go to Beyond Belief. And also, let me gift you with a free 1-week subscription to Gaia TV, like, oh my God, Dr. Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden and all these amazing, Mateus DeStefano, all these amazing people are there, plus yoga classes. So just go to debbidachinger.com/Gaia and get your free 1-week subscription. It's DEBBIDACHINGER.com/GAIA. My gift to you. I spoke about the Hopis, and so specifically, this is so cool. I'll start with this because there's a lot of information, but the Hopi Indians were one of the races, one of the species, if you will, on Earth that were saved during one of the catastrophes that we've had. Over the history of our Earth, we have had 3 different catastrophes, massive cataclysms that wiped out all living beings, flora, fauna, everything. And we started all over again. And one of them were the floods. And so the Hopi Indians, what are we going to do? Everybody knows it's impending doom. And these beings came from subterranean caves, and they are called the ant beings. And the ant beings came out of the caves to save the Hopi Indians. This is a well-documented story. And the Hopi Indians were so grateful because they didn't know where to go with a flood coming. And they were taken in these subterranean caverns, and they were shown how to have food, how to store food, and they lived amongst them very peacefully, very gratefully for a long time, for generations, until it was safe to come back out into the earth. It's such a deep subject, these ant people. I'll tell you, the first time I heard this, Carl, I was like a big eye roller. I thought, I wanted to tell this person that they were crazy who was sharing it with me. They were not sharing about the Hopis. They were sharing another ant being story. However, this person worked for the German government in specifically UFOs and extraterrestrials. He had deep information. So I thought I need to at least do some research, and I've been blown away. I've got documents about them. Sometimes it is said in myth that the ant people, just picture an ant, have very skinny waists because they were so generous with the Hopis in feeding them and taking care of them till they were okay enough to come back out to the world to repopulate, restart. And they're giant. They are like 9, 15 feet tall. And so, yeah, that's the Hopis, and that's an amazing story. And if you go to, there's some beautiful places where their old dwellings are out, like in the Arizona, Utah area, Chaco Canyon, and you can find these drawings on the caves and literally see depictions of the ant beings.
Wow, what an amazing story! I recently had Amber Wolf on, and she talks about the Lemurians who live in Mount Shasta. So evidently, there's a number of cultures or beings who live in the subterranean world of Earth.
More than we know, more than even I know, even though that's a huge fascination for me right now, and I am more and more getting information. Yes, what Amber Wolf was talking about was the Telos, who lived, and that's their names from Lemuria, whose essence, if you will, they're often not seen by us. All these beings I'm talking about, they vibrate at such an advanced level that we don't see them. But once in a great while, someone will. And I know someone who's taken a picture of an ant being like, she was like really freaked out, not fully understanding what was happening, took a picture and got the heck out of there. There is a lot of talk that there's a lot of government that it's always weird getting into this stuff. But anyway, there's a lot of government that is doing some work out in Florida right now, and that there are ant beings there for sure. And I'll give you another, like, kind of very interesting piece that in the Native American language, Anu, A-N-U, means ant, and Naki means friend. So Anunnaki, right, for ant friend, which is very interesting because we are deeply seeded genetically by the Anunnaki a long time ago, 450,000 years ago. And so there is definitely a connection between the ant beings and the Anunnaki.
Wow, just some amazing information. It's just blowing me away here. This is incredible. Thank you, Debbie. I'm curious about this. Is there a spiritual aspect to our contact and connection to these extraterrestrial races? I mean, I've had a number of channels on my show, and many of the beings who come through these channels claim to be ascended masters who reside in higher planes and dimensions. I mean, you just talked about some of them vibrating at higher planes that we can't even see them. Is it true then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes people say, well, why don't they just land? I mean, it's very American kind of talk. Why don't they just land? And you can tell people have been watching a lot of television and film, and they're influenced more by that than by the reality. But the thing is, these are advanced civilizations. I think when you have the channels come on your show and they're talking about this, there's several components. One of most important, we are genetically connected to these beings. There's not a separation, us and them. There's actually a deep connection to these beings. Many of them seeded us genetically. After the Anunnaki did what they did, they came in. We have thousands of strains of genetics from advanced extraterrestrial benevolent species. And So that's one thing. The other thing is, yes, because they're so advanced, they don't have to be in these dense meat suits. And so it is difficult for them often to come and be with us, right? Because they have to vibrate at such a low vibration and frequency. It's difficult for them. Many of these beings, and it's, I think, beyond comprehension, but I'd like to comprehend it at some point, but they are very etheric in nature. So there's also underground reptilians who live. I think this is big. And then also inside of our oceans. And it's not just that there are beings there. Some of them don't care about us. They have their own world under there. They want it that way. They're doing their own work, their own science experiments, etc. But they also have portals. So in these caves, in these underground water places, oceans way deeper than what we currently know, there are a lot of beings who also reside on the earth.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Just so yeah, there's something I've got to chew on for a little bit. Wow, just amazing. Of course, I've got to ask you this. I mean, your show, Dare to Dream, you've had it 18 years. You've hosted this show. Now, I mean, podcasts haven't been around that long. So it started as a radio show and then became a TV show podcast?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you know Burbank, California, but that's where I live now, and that's where my show started. I didn't live here at the time, but Burbank is very well known for entertainment and for radio. And I was at a beautiful station, absolutely beautiful station, an indie station, and I ran my show. It was still called Dare to Dream, and it was more spiritual based in the beginning. And so that's, as I went along, I mean, it was quite joyful for me, the learning, the conversations, the master classes. And then, yes, this word came around, gosh, now it must be like 12 years ago. And it was this word podcast, and, people made fun of it and said, oh, what is that? It's never going to last. I was kind of intrigued. So I thought, well, I'll do that too. Let's just see. I mean, it's sort of, my show is already syndicated, but this is just another way to do it. Boy, am I glad I did. So, today I am still on podcast, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, all the same syndicated places, but I remain having a foot in radio on BBS radio and also 102.7 FM in New York. And I like it that way, so I can reach the people who are interested in this conversation. But yes, I started doing both. And then I know, like when podcasts became clear this is viable, there are millions rolling out, there are more and more people. I would watch the statistics all the time, where in the beginning people would say, do you know what a podcast is? Nobody knew, right? It was just a modicum of people. And then time went by and you saw these statistics, these numbers growing exponentially. Everybody was hearing about podcasting. Everybody was interested. Everybody wanted a podcast. And then even like the numbers, I haven't checked this year, but I know last year it was over 5 million podcasts.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. Well, you obviously have a face for TV. I always said I had a face for radio when I was at Disney. But that's another.
You've got a great voice. It's wonderful in a great manner. I get why you were on radio for so long.
Thank you. I love it. I still love it. But, let's go back. I saw a clip. I think this is on your website. You have a clip of you interviewing Michael Beckwith at a live event. He was just one of them. And he stated that the shift has hit the fan. And it really does seem that a shift has taken place in the world and its people. Now, in your opinion, what exactly is this shift that is now taking place?
Yes, so if it's okay with you, I'll take it from the shamanic point of view. Yeah, that interview was red carpet, and I had some extraordinary transformational leaders that I got to spend time with. It was a love fest. I really enjoyed it. And Michael is just a beautiful being. The shift from, I'm going to specifically go Peruvian, Andean, the Inca, Quero people. So they have something, these are ancient, ancient people. And they have something called the Pachacuti. And every 500 years is a different Pachacuti. Pacha, which many people associate with Mama, meaning Pachamama, Mother Earth. But in this case, Pachacuti means Pacha time, kuti, change. So this is a time of change, pachakuti. And in this particular, they've all been different, not a myth, very true. And they knew, these people knew over 250 years ago that this was coming. And they said there will come a time. Now, every Native American, every indigenous culture has their different form of this prophecy. And they all have been talking about this from the inception of their people, knowing what we are living through right now is to be lived through, that our souls chose to come here at this time. Very interesting time to be alive on Earth. And so with the Pachakuti, it means a shakeup, a chaos. Something different is about to emerge. And before it emerges, we need to shake up what's already here. That means that a lot of things are going to come to the forefront that we have chosen not to look at. Politics, wars, the way we treat our children, the way we treat our waters, our skies, corporate greed, all sorts of things, sexual misappropriation. Many things are coming up to be looked at and dealt with, healed, so we can make other choices and not be like that. That coincides with the rise of the divine feminine, that the North and the South will finally come together. And as the Peruvians say, the eagle and the condor will finally fly together. And really, it is a time, Carl, where with this great shift that we're in, to stop living in the mind. We have been so trained that this is super safe. Like, hang out here, you can figure everything out. But do we? No. Has it created the world we want to live in? No. How we treat other humans? No. There's one answer. And this stuff is so ancient and I think so obvious, but so important. The heart, the divine feminine, the gentility and the power and the reception, the healing, the being responsible. It is time to take the really long walk from the head down to the heart. And the other piece is to end the separation that we are really deeply in with the source energy of which we are, that the earth is very much alive, and to stop abusing her as a resource. She is the greatest mother most of us will ever have, even if you had an amazing mother or have. But she is so powerful and loving, and we live on her, and she houses us and feeds us and clothes us. And animism is a big, important part of this, to know that every bird, every plant, every rock, every river, sky, moon, every single thing is alive, has a soul. We are not disconnected. We truly are one with everything. And when we can remember the heart, the honoring and respect for Mother Earth and all living and non-living things, this is the great change for the great shift. This is where we come back into harmony, into healing of the planet, of ourselves, so that we may also be awake and available for the healing of everybody else collectively. And I believe that's why all of us agreed to be here right now.
Debbie, thank you, because some of the things you just said are so loving and wise. And I so appreciate what you did there. We're talking again to Debbi Dachinger, just an incredible lady, host of the Dare to Dream TV and show and podcast. One more thing, just one last thing about shamanism. We talk about shamanism. Is shamanism really just spirituality, but not in the usual form that Western mind thinks about it?
No, it is. Thank you for the question. It's a great question, and I appreciate it always because it's such a big word these days. And I think it's important. When I say what I do, it's because I feel incredible respect, and I want to pay so much homage to these beautiful beings. The funny thing is that shamans never choose to be a shaman. They're chosen by their lineage, by spirit, by the community. And when they're chosen, they have to go through these initiatory rites that most of us may not make it out the other side. They always have some kind of death experience and rebirth. So it could be near death, it could be a mental illness, it could be being struck by lightning. And some of them go into a psychic trance and they see this ferocious, very terrifying animal. They are eaten and dismembered. And then at some point, they're blown back into being with wild talents. And then they continue. It takes decades and decades of work, of discipline to basically serve their community, to serve the planet. They are very much in touch with extraterrestrials. They have been since the beginning of time. I do not believe that the indigenous people are originally from this planet. I believe they're from the planet, well, a lot, but not only, but a lot of them are from Maya, Maia, in the Pleiades. And there's a lot of healers that come from there. And shamanism is unbelievable because they transcend this reality to bring back the healing and the wisdom that they do. They do interact with extraterrestrials. They've been family and had relations with them since the beginning of time. And they also shapeshift. They do pretty extraordinary things. And I don't know that any of us will ever know, unless we were them, what it is like for them to transcend this reality, to go where they do, to pull back the information. But they have been healers, maybe the original healers. And I'll tell you something interesting. Shamanism started in the Paleolithic times, and the first shamans were women. They were the oracles. And so it wasn't until millennia later that men said, I want to learn how to do that. And they did. And that's why in Siberia, the word shaman, saman, means one who knows. And the shamans, the males in Siberia, often dress like women to pay homage to the first divine goddesses who did this work.
Oh man, I just realized my cat is an ET. Her name is Maya. But speaking of shamanism, I mean, going back to that video you did at the red carpet event in LA, I saw you getting hugged by a real shaman, Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Reasons, and his whole family are true shamans. But shamanism, I think, in the modern world was actually introduced more in the early '70s when Carlos Castaneda wrote the series of books on the teachings of Don Juan. I remember reading that when I was a hippie in college. I go, whoa, baby, this is incredible. But that was really an opening to shamanism to the rest of the world.
It's so interesting you bring up Carlos Castaneda because, I also read his books. I mean, wow, influential and mind-blowing and all that. And one of the things he was known for is to do these vision quests. And it's very interesting you say this because I'm now in a shamanic program, as I shared with you, Pachacuti Mesa tradition. And this is the second time. It happened years ago in another program, and I know it's coming up in a couple of weeks. We're meeting again where they're going to ask me to do a vision quest. And I didn't do the first one because I too frightened as a woman to go hang out like in the wild by myself. No water, no food. Or maybe they give you water, but there's no food. I don't really care so much about the fasting. I know it's not comfortable, but you'll come back to your community and you'll be fine after a few days. But it's more the being alone, but it's coming up again. And so this is something I'm going to have to channel Carlos Castaneda because he did it a lot. And he had some extraordinary experiences. And so I know if it keeps coming to me, I'm going to have to face the vision quest head on and probably go do it.
Oh my gosh, I might have to go on one of those with you. My gosh, that sounds amazing. But yeah, because I remember Carlos Castaneda writing about Don Juan doing shape shifting like you were talking about. And just amazing down there in the Sonoran Desert in Mexico. But shamans are all over the world. But well, oh my gosh, Debbie, this is amazing. We most definitely have to talk about your numerous books, but especially Dare to Dream, This Life Counts. Tell us about that book and how it came about.
Oh, because I was on radio and I wanted to reach more people. So I was on radio and I'm hearing from people all over the world saying, I love your show. I listen. My sister-in-law at the time was a psychotherapist, and she would have clients come and mention me, and they didn't realize because she uses a different last name. They didn't realize we were related, and we're very close. And so it just started becoming a thing. And I thought, how can I reach more people? I want to write a book. A book gets out there pretty wide and far. And so I wrote this book. It did what I wanted it to do. I'm still so proud of that book because Dare to Dream, This Life Counts, my first book, literally is about how to create any dreams. And here's what's incredible. I just had that book and my second book, Wisdom to Success, turned into audibles. It's been a dream of mine to finally go past the print book, past the Kindle ebook, and finally get to Audible. So both of them are available on Audible. They may still be free right now. They were in a beta test. So if anybody wants to check it out under my name, you just got to spell my name right, Debbi Dachinger. It's lovely. I listened to it myself and I'm like, good, it's evergreen. It's still, this is still viable information. So that's how I started writing books. And it's, I know I've got another one, but it's going to be at least next year. I'm busy. I'm already booked next year, like 5 different countries to speak. So I will see how the pacing goes. If it's not next year, the next year, the year after. But I know this will be a personal book that I'll be putting out that will be some of my experiences with plant medicine and with shamanism and a little bit more memoir-esque.
Wow, as busy as you are, it makes me even more grateful you were able to fit in time to do this show. I appreciate it. But yeah, just incredible too. And you know, I've been wanting to turn my book into Audible, and there's so many different ways. I do have a microphone, but we're gonna kind of wind up a little bit here. I do have, I think, a very important question here. What are your thoughts on the seemingly ever increasing interest in UFO sightings in you know, the grand media? Are we getting closer to making legitimate contact with our galactic friends? I mean, on a widespread basis, not them just to the people who are interested. I mean, it's got to be some form of contact that won't cause widespread fear.
Yes. Yes, we are. We are. The simple answer is yes, we are. Absolutely. Unequivocally, we are getting to that. That is why you're seeing more whistleblowers come forward, because they actually have the okay from the government to start dripping this information. The government has such a thing about us being afraid. And maybe for good reason. I don't know. Certainly, if there's good reason, it's because movies have portrayed these beings coming to do things to us that, frankly, only we would do to us, like kill us and eat us. But most of these advanced civilizations have no interest in that, no interest in conquering us. Why? You know, it's a huge cosmos. So, yeah, they're, like I said, they are genetically our relations. And some people don't understand, well, what do they see in us? I mean, if they're so advanced, they see a lot in us. We are very interesting people. And what they see in us are people of emotion. And not all of these civilizations have emotion like we do. Certainly the Greys genetically mastered themselves with zero emotion. And so the Greys realize, well, that didn't work. So they're trying to bring it back into themselves. That's why there were so many abductions. And further, they have had since the 1940s agreement with the government, you know, the US and all the other countries in the world. Look, we'll give you some advanced technology. You let us do this. And there have been agreements, and we won't, you know, overall bother your people. We'll sort of slip in and out. But much like you just said, Carl, exactly. The incidences are rising. The awareness is rising, and you're starting to see more and more with the government around disclosure. You're starting to see more and more whistleblowers coming forward and speaking truth as much as they can and have agreed to speak. And this stuff is important, you know, and shows like mine, and there's other people doing great jobs out there getting this information. There's tons of events. I'm going in 1 month to Contact in the Desert, huge event. Every year, it's been going on for like decades. And this is the whole subject. Experts from around the world come and speak. And I believe, based on what I've heard, that the extraterrestrials have said to our government, we have been patient. and we have adhered to what you've asked of us, but you have not kept up your part of the bargain and told the people the truth. And so we will be coming. And we don't want it to be like this, but we're going to leave it up to you. It's incumbent on you to start disseminating the truth. And I think that is why it's picking up more. But I also think, like this great shift you mentioned earlier, this is part of it. This is part of the web of many of us waking up and understanding this is real, this is happening. And it can be so beautiful when we finally become part of the galactic community.
Well, I really appreciate your explanation on that, because obviously it's a huge topic, more and more and more than ever. Debbi, we're going to wind up just one completely off the UFO thing, maybe not. Being an actress and a singer, I see you're still the lead singer in a band called Lions of Lyra. Wow. Is there video on YouTube, or can we hear any of your work?
Oh, yeah, there is. Thank you for asking. We do. If you go to Lions of Lyra, Lyra, we're beings, lion beings, and also a planet before it was destroyed. Just go there on YouTube, Lions of Lyra, and it's free. You can listen. Yeah, we perform. We do galactic sound baths, and then we've got amazing transformational people who will bring us into their events. And so we'll perform before people speak. So many different gigs we do. It's really fun. I had given up singing. When I got into radio, I thought, God, there is no time. I'm writing books, I'm doing radio, and I gave up singing. I left the band I was in, and I'd been singing since I was a little girl, but I was very at peace. And then it was, one of the many other awakenings that I had where the divine came and said, what happened to music? And I didn't know. I didn't know what to say. And it was sort of a shrug. And I happened to be working with a shaman. I said, well, this thing happened. And I told him, the divine asked this question, and he said, the music never left you, Debbi. Start doing it again. So Rob picked up his guitar. I started singing. It's not that long ago. It's only 5.5 years ago. And boom, we just like 1 month later started getting booked at gigs, and it's been fun. And it's especially fun sometimes, like I'm speaking on a cruise next year. It's a mystery school cruise to Turkey and Greece.
Oh my gosh.
And so if you want to come, I'll give you the website. Yeah, it'd be great to have you there. But the cruise is going to be incredible. Like, it's amazing speakers. And the producer I'm good friends with. And so he also booked a time for Rob and I to play. And I have to say, it was a gas, because so many of those people are my friends, my tribe, the other speakers. And they were all like, we had no idea you guys did this. We had no idea you could perform like this. And so it's great. We're even coming out of the closet in our own space, so to speak, to let people know, yeah, we perform this great music. It's really uplifting. And so if you go to the channel, if you go to Lions of Lyra on YouTube, leave a comment so I know you were there.
Well, Debbi, one thing's for sure, you are not bored. So one last thing, what is the best way for people to connect with you? I know you do workshops and courses. What's your website?
Yeah, it's my name. It's DebbiDachinger.com. And if you're watching, that's easy right here. Just spell it correctly, DebbiDachinger.com. And if you'd like to find out a free gift for you guys, if you'd like to find out what your star seed is, your galactic history and lineage, I've put together a free, it's amazing actually, report and video. And that's my website, DebbiDachinger.com/starseed. Again, the Gaia TV, if you'd like a free 1-week subscription, please check out my interviews with George Noory. Go to DebbiDachinger.com/Gaia. And then also on YouTube, Debbi Dachinger.
Oh my gosh, Debbi, thank you. I have a deep feeling we might have to do another show if you can find another hour to sit down with me, you busy lady. But thank you. I'm so blessed. Thank you. You are a beacon of light and love and truth, and much needed in this world. And thank you for being on World Awakenings.
Oh, Carl, I've really enjoyed my time with you, and thank you for the work you do. It is much needed.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.